Creature Guide Live Prehistoric News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over a new species of a belly sword dinosaur has been discovered over in Europe, as well as a finding that has uh, occurred over on a species of ornithopod dinosaur. Some deer have been born over in Zert Zoo in Europe, as well as a certain rare wallaby has been spotted. Also, apparently, certain tortoises have made remarkable changes to landscapes, barren landscapes over in Africa. It sounds like.
Did you say Zurzu?
If I did, I apologize for disrespecting the language.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Zazu.
Serious, huh?
I thought you were going to say Zazu.
Um, well, I wouldn't apologize for his name. Anyway, I don't think it's related to English. So from news.stv.tv, endangered Visayan spotted deer born at Edinburgh Zoo. Native to the Philippines, it is estimated that as few as 700 Visayan spotted deer remain in the wild. I believe this is the species of deer that was spotted for the first time since 2012 over in the Philippines along a national park road, um, somewhere on the island. So this is really good to hear that we have two little fawns that have been born recently over in Scotland. So the fawn was born on Monday, July 14th, and keepers named her Ulan, which means rain in Tagalog, a language spoken in the Philippines. Visitors can now see Ulan exploring her habitat, sticking close to parents Lyra and Pablo. The Royal Zoological Society of Scotland said she is settling in well and is known to favor sleeping in a hollowed out tree trunk. Well, that's interesting. Oh, I guess they have one of those large tree trunks carved out for certain animals in the zoo, or at least the rescue center. Hey, here's another one. I guess it's the one that they're talking about. Yeah, seems pretty healthy. It's really good to hear considering how rare they are. They're not Sumatran rhino rare, but pretty close. Edinburgh Zoo is now home to four of Hussein spotted deer, parents Lyra and Pablo, Watson, and baby Ulan. Native to the Philippines, it is estimated that as few as 700 Visayan spotted deer remain in the wild, meaning it is classified as endangered on the IUCN Red List. The species has already disappeared from several islands in the Philippines due to intensive hunting and deforestation and can only be found on the islands of Panay and Negros. Yeah, there's three other different species of deer that are found on separate regions of the Philippines. Technically, there are separate islands within the Philippines. It's not just one large carved out island. So this is really good to see. Let's head back in time and possibly to another part of the world. From Sci News, new belly sword dinosaur species discovered in France. Well, this is rare for this to occur with this group of dinosaurs, considering belly swords are mainly known from different regions of South America, Africa, and occasionally Australia, as well as Madagascar. But Madagascar is part of the African continent. Oh, as well as into Asia. I believe with Australia, it might be certain fragmentary remains. At least it's not hitting me at the moment with any specific species of a belly sword that have been discovered there. Paleontologists have added another species to the Cretaceous period dinosaur fauna of Europe, and this one was found in Normandy, France. Interesting. So, northwestern France. Whoa, is this a tooth? And when it comes to dinosaurs being discovered in France, looks like so far there have been about 25 confirmed species. France tends to be more renowned when it comes to the Mesozoic era or the time of the dinosaurs for different species of marine reptiles, like different species of plesiosaurs. Ichthyosaurs are a big one, as well as a wide variety of different species of pterosaurs. But this is a very well preserved belly sword tooth. If this is one of the few fragmentary remains that we have found of it, greatly preserved serrated edges. It's really good to see. And the interior is quite exquisite as well. So 10 millimeters. So I'm guessing this thing is about an inch or an inch and a half across, or around 1.5 centimeters. So let's see what else we found. So Calito Draco Catardi lived in what is now France during the Cenomanian age of the early Cretaceous, some 100 million years ago. Interesting. So it's a middle Cretaceous abelisaurid. There were different species of abelisaurid that existed back in the early Cretaceous, and they were quite common during the late Cretaceous as well. So first evolving somewhere around 135 to 140 million years ago in different areas of South America and Africa. The ancient species was a member of Furilusauridae. This is not a common subfamily of Belisaurid dinosaurs that have been mentioned. Um, Here, I'll continue right here. A subgroup of derived Belisaurid dinosaurs, medium to large sized bipedal predators that were predominant in the carnivorous fauna during the late Cretaceous of the ancient southern supercontinent Gondwana, previously known only from South America. Um. Okay. If it's directly talking about Ferulasauridae, Abelisaurus, that might be true. Okay. Let's bring up another species of Abelisaur, however, that has been discovered in France. They're just not common, especially with fully intact remains to be found here. Tarascosaurus, Tarascasaurus. So this animal lived back in.
It literally finished spelling it for me.
Yeah, that's
No, no,
correct.
it didn't do a drop down. It finished spelling it.
Just source.
I've never seen that.
But this animal lived.
And then it brought up ice cream places.
Um, that's
I'm not kidding.
did
Oh,
wait.
it changed it. Respell it.
Tarascasaurus.
No, it respelled it.
Yeah. Okay, so this animal inhabited different islands that used to cover France as well as much of Europe during the Cretaceous period. In fact, even back into the Jurassic, Europe, for the most part, um, during the Mesozoic era, was a series of islands, but especially during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods.
Just to start you out with.
Yeah, his arms are far too. I wouldn't necessarily say large, but his hands are very unlike in a belly sword. In fact, these very stocky and the way the claws are splayed out doesn't look like any species of theropod dinosaur had this type of an arm structure. And the head does not look like an abelisaurid. It more looks like some sort of morphed tyrannosaur, maybe slightly mixed with some species of megalosaur. And the osteoderms are off. Okay, this is closer. Um, this also seems to replicate certain members of the Carcharodontosaur lineage, which were closely related to the Abelisaurs. But Tarascosaurus should still have a bit more of an Abelisaur, like a stereotypical Abelisaur look. So I also think the arms are a bit off. Now, for an older model, I mean, it's okay. This is a bit better. Yeah, when it comes to the head structure, still though, I think the bottom jaw might be a bit thin. Maybe even the head could be a bit more circular. But the arms aren't bad. They're much closer to what an belly sword arm structure as well as the hands would look like. The tail I think is a bit long. Maybe it should be a little shorter. Maybe it's just the way it's curved. I don't think the legs look bad. I think the toes, the thigh might be a little wide, or it's just simply maybe he has relatively short shin bones in this instance.
Okay, what is this?
Okay, this is from the 2000 or 2001 Discovery Dinosaur Planet show. And the Tarascosaurs in it, or the Abelisaurs, really weren't bad. It takes place in an episode called Pod's Journey, which is basically about a species of dromaeosaur existed in the region called Pyroraptor that ended up drifting from the mainland to an island with dwarf dinosaurs and ended up being just slightly smaller than the larger carnivores in the region, such as the Tarascosaurus, considering Pyroraptor was smaller in general and it did inhabit different islands back in Cretaceous Europe. Oh, yeah, this isn't a bad model. I think he has a bit of a thick tail, but besides that, I think his head structure looks really good.
I
The
was wondering
overall
if it was a toy.
coloration, yeah, it's just a good looking model. What is interesting is that they did add osteoderms right around the neck and the shoulder region and then just stopped. That's interesting. Usually, if the osteoderms are placed on a specific area of the body and like larger armored osteoderms, they tend to be concentrated on reconstructions over on the back vertebrae area. Whereas apparently this artist decided to just locate it towards the very back end of the skull, as well as the neck and the upper shoulder blades, which is interesting. I think it almost has the ability to have lips as well if it were to close its mouth entirely. Abelisaurs had probably the closest jaw structure to the Tyrannosaurs in terms of being able to come into contact with bone and not have to worry or be concerned as much when it comes to breaking their teeth or their overall jaw. Technically, most species of carnivorous dinosaurs could come into contact with bone and be fine, but it's just implying a lot of force, and it can be risky with, or a bit more risky with different species of large carnivorous dinosaurs that have a longer and more not, thin jaw structure, as well as having just thinner teeth overall. They're more designed for slicing through flesh and not crunching through bone. Oh, Tarascosaurus was relatively small, probably not reaching much more than 8 feet in length or, um, well, they possibly become slightly larger, but they were dwarfs in the sense of a Belisaurid, so probably not weighing much more than maybe 150 to 200 pounds, right around 100 kilograms. Let's see what else occurred. When the family of Belisauridæ was erected in 1985, it included the single species Abelisaurus cumaoensis, a large carnivorous dinosaur from the Campanian of Patagonia, said Dr. Eric Buff- Buffetat from PSL Research University and his colleagues. It has since become apparent that the Abelisauridae actually constitute a major radiation of Neoceratosaurian theropods that played an important part in the Cretaceous continental ecosystems of South America, Africa, the Indian subcontinent, and Madagascar. Although the Abelisauridae have a mainly Gondwanan distribution, so when it refers to Gondwana, it's referring to Australia, South America, and Africa. Um, and a Belisaurid was reported from the late Cretaceous of southern France as early as 1988, and they are known from Cretaceous localities in several European countries, including France, Spain, Hungary, and the Netherlands. That's a new one. I didn't know the Netherlands had an Belisaurid. Wow, that is shocking. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that. That's interesting. Two blocks containing the fossilized bones and teeth of Caletodraco so this specific a belly sword that they discovered, were unearthed. The paleontologist Nicholas Cotard at the foot of the sea cliffs at Saint Juan Brun, Brunival on the coast of the Pacific Hawks in the department of Seine-Maritime, Normandy, northwestern France. So the glauconitic chalk of the Paustic House is a marine deposit, as indicated in the present case by a shark tooth present in the matrix, close to one of the bones in the interior block. Interesting. So sounds like that this belly sword was found in a marine deposit, and apparently a shark bit into it, maybe when it was dead. So that's certainly possible. There were different species of sharks, also about the size of the great white shark throughout the Cretaceous period.
Couldn't it have been swimming?
Um, it could have been, but that's a bit odd for. I mean, also, this might not be a very large species of Belisaurid. We don't know necessarily how large it was, but yeah, that certainly is possible. Um, and then maybe it just died shortly afterwards. Yeah, that's a big question. Let's see who. Oh, okay. There is another species of dinosaur, but in this case, it belongs to a different family. So specifically, a megalosaur called Demutrilosaurus. So, so Demutrilosaurus. Did a like a small carnivorous megalosaur pop up? There we go. Yep, this is him. So Demutrilosaurus lived much earlier in specifically France, back in the Middle Jurassic period, around 170 million years ago. This is one of the first species of megalosaurs to evolve back in Central Europe during the Jurassic. You did already have larger species inhabiting different parts of the British Isles, like England and Scotland, such as Megalosaurus. However, Dubrilosaurus is still a very interesting species of theropod dinosaur, but it only reached from around 12 to 13 feet in length, or pushing just around 4 meters, and maybe weighed somewhere around 5 to 650 pounds, or a little over 300 kilograms. So, for the time, you could say that it was a medium sized species of carnivorous theropod.
Wait, I have a fat one.
Oh yeah, that is interesting. He's very yeah, stubby. He almost looks like one of those cheap stuffed animals or stuffed dinosaurs.
Wait, I have a feathered one.
Or I guess one of those really large stuffed ones. But anyway. Yeah, oh, yeah, this specific, reconstruction. Yeah, I think this looks really good. It definitely gives it a more menacing appearance. You could say in some instances also, since they added plumage or feathers around the upper neck structure and around the chest and shoulder region and the upper arms, that this animal could be closely related to the later dromaeosaurs of the Cretaceous. But the truth is that the megalosaurs were far off on the family tree of the theropod lineage of dinosaurs compared to the dromaeosaurs. And the dromaeosaurs also belong to a different lineage of carnivorous theropods called the coelurosaurs, which the megalosaurs were their own large group, Megalosauroideae. Coelurosaurs also wouldn't evolve until shortly after Dobrillosaurus existed. Now, Dobrillosaurus, like many species, especially the smaller theropod dinosaurs within the like 500 to 1,500 pound range, or somewhere around 250 kilograms to about maybe 800 kilograms, have been reconstructed in recent times with feathers. Though we don't really have any evidence from skin fragments of these theropods of them having feathers, sure is possible. Now, also when it comes to this specific species, Megalosaur, like Megalosaurus itself, it does have something between a more narrow jaw structure and a bit more robust, especially comparing it to earlier species of theropods or members of the Neotheropoda lineage, the Dilophosaurs, the Coelophysids back in the earlier Jurassic, as well as the late Triassic, mid Triassic too, if you're including the Herrerasaurs. So it really is a much more evolved predator. It's not necessarily as powerful as the later Allosaurs when they would evolve, as well as even the Ceratosaurs, but for the time, it's one of the most powerful predators to exist over in Europe, and likely hunted different species of early sauropods back in the Middle Jurassic. So the Gluck, oh, okay. The nearest land area where the dinosaur described below probably lived must have been the Armorican Massif, about 100 kilometers to the southwest. The dinosaur specimen must somehow have been carried out to sea, possibly by a stream, after which it must have floated over a fairly long distance until it sank to the bottom. Occurrences of dinosaur remains in marine deposits are rather frequent, although this seems to be the first record from the late Cretaceous of the Pays de Calx, where the only relatively common vertebrate fossils are fish teeth. The presence of the Furlosaurian abellisaurid Calitodraco catardi in the Cenomanian of Normandy suggests that the history of the Abelisauridae in Europe was more complex than previously thought. I think in some cases, especially when it comes to the Cretaceous of France, um, it can be, or the country's Mesozoic, just overall life can be left out in many instances. And it was nice that in Dinosaur Planet that this was put out there. So it suggests that the discovery of Colectodracocotardi shows that dinosaur remains, although exceedingly rare, do occur in the chalk of the Anglo-Paris Basin, and that a careful search for fossil vertebrates in these marine formations can yield surprising and important results. New species leads to a reassessment of the fossil record of abelisaurids in Europe, showing that contrary to what could previously be assumed, Majungasaurines, so these are a separate subfamily of abelisaurs that existed. They're more renowned for existing over in Madagascar, but they have been found in different regions of the world. We're not the only abelisaurid subgroup present in that geographical area, since Colectodracocotardi apparently belongs to the Furulasauridae, a highly derived clade of Belisauridae. The Colectodracocotardi is one of the earliest known Furulasauridae, and its occurrence in Europe leads to reconsider the biogeographical history of this group of theropods, hitherto known from South America. Hitherto. I'm going to have to recheck on that. So this is good to hear that we found a mid-Cretaceous species of Abelisaurid over in France. Is likely a bit distantly related to the Tarascosaurus. However, it's too bad we at least it looks like we've only found the tooth, but I think they explained that there were different parts of the skull that they found as well. So let's travel forward in time to another part of the world. From IndianDefenseReview.com, they kept planting trees in the Sahara and kept failing. Then they released 500 tortoises, and the desert looked alive from space. They released 500 giant reptiles into a barren stretch of the Sahara. 5 years later, satellites spotted green where only sand had been. Well, I guess for North Africa, yeah, this is lush. Um, I'm guessing they're African spurred tortoises that they released into the area, but African spurred tortoises tend to inhabit different ranges of southern sub-Saharan Africa. So over in like Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, I don't recall them being specifically in the Sahara. So different parts of Algeria, Niger, Chad, Sudan. The soil across much of the Sahel bakes into a crust. Daytime temperatures climb past 60 degrees Celsius. Whoa. That's like what, 120 degrees Fahrenheit? At night, the air cools sharply. Well, yeah, I mean, if it dips down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or um gosh, what is that? It's 25 degrees Celsius? At night, oh, okay, that hardened surface blocks rainwater from seeping downward. Moisture evaporates almost immediately. Seeds sit locked in place, unable to germinate. So in 2021, released researchers released 500 African spurred tortoises. Okay, it is them. They do have an extremely large home range into a stripped down landscape along the southern edge of the Sahara. There are over 40 different species of turtles around the world, and well, okay, these are specifically tortoises. There are fewer tortoises than there are turtles, but sometimes you just forget which, like the specific home range of each species.
Wait, there's only 40 turtles?
I'm probably underestimating that because I wasn't including tortoises, so it's likely above 60 or 70 different species. The animals belong to a species, Kentrocali sucata, that evolved to handle exactly these conditions. 5 years later, satellite images captured scattered green patches pushing up through the sand. Uh, the tortoises did not plant anything, they dug. Okay, okay. So the African
Wait,
spurred.
wait, wait. Did it actually just say that?
Yeah, it was a sentence. Or technically two. So you have a noun and a verb, and that's good. Or that's a sentence. The African spurred tortoise ranks as the largest mainland tortoise in the world and the third largest overall, behind the giants of the Galapagos and Aldabra. Adult males can weigh more than 100 kilograms or 200 pounds. Jeez, that is a huge African spurred tortoise. I wonder if it links also to different subspecies as well. But size alone is not what altered the landscape. The trait that mattered was the animal's drive to excavate. Just to escape lethal ground temperatures, spurred tortoises carve burrows 10 to 15 meters below the surface, or somewhere between 33 to 50 feet. According to research compiled by the IUCN Tortoise and Freshwater Turtle Specialist Group, each turtle let the tortoise survive the midday heat and the cold nights. It also punches through the sealed soil crust. Oh yeah, there's an African spurred tortoise. Yeah, they're extremely good burrowers. I think it's one from Senegal, so Western Africa. So once that crust breaks open, rainwater finds a path downward instead of sheeting off the surface. That the surrounding soil gains water retention capacity. Moisture stays in the ground longer after each rainfall. Conservation groups have already measured this effect in Senegal. Okay, so yeah, technically northern Senegal is basically the Sahara Desert, and I don't recall the country just north of that. You have, like, I believe Malai just east of Senegal, which a great deal of Malai is also the Sahara Desert. Conservation groups
So basically, there's a bunch of sand around.
um, yeah, well, apparently, yeah, they, helped, germinate these trees germinate. The nonprofit SOS, or Save Our Sulcata, I think the sulcata is the tree, has managed tortoise breeding and release programs since 1992. An IUCN reports published in August 2020 described a sanctuary called the Village des Tortoises in Nofwalai, Senegal. I think it's French, holding more than 300 individuals. Whoa, well, that's good to hear. Researchers have released dozens of tortoises back into the wild. The mechanism that follows is more physical than biological. A burrow entrance and the loosened soil around it create a pocket of stable microclimate. The tortoise does not carry or spread seeds deliberately, but seeds already lying dormant on the hardened surface or seeds carried in by wind find just enough moisture and shelter near the burrow to germinate. Insects and microorganisms move into the loosened soil next. From there, the ecological chain builds outward. Over time, vegetation thickens around the digging zones. The green patches that appeared on satellite imagery were not forest canopies. They were clusters of plant life anchored to the spots where tortoises had been working. I think
Are
that
they
was just
being paid?
yeah, I was wondering about that too, considering African spurred tortoises need a lot of lush vegetation. They're not carnivores. Like, they don't even feed on insects. So they're not omnivorous either. Whoa, wow, this is lush. Holy shucks. This was the Sahara? This is really good.
I thought it
I mean,
looks like Brookshire.
yeah. Well, yeah, you could say in some instances this might look like certain areas of South Texas, but it's really has that more savanna sort of appearance to it. So, yeah, compared to many parts of the world, this is kind of bare, and this looks like there's a massive problem. It's a drought. Now this could be the dry season. Technically, it's not green, but considering what it or supposedly was, this is pretty good. But that dirt, though, this looks more of like dirt you would find further south in Africa. Supposedly, it's Senegal. There are different soil areas within the country. It's not as there's not as large of a variety of different ecosystems and soils in Senegal as like certain other countries, but it still has a handful of different types of ecosystems. So ecologists call organisms that physically reshape their surroundings for other species ecosystem engineers. Yeah, I think that's a more recent sort of a term. It's funny. A 2017 review published in Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution singled out the African spurred tortoise as an example that deserves more attention. The review noted that the species digs burrows with great ecosystem engineering potential because the tunnels are large, reaching 15 meters in length, around 50 feet, and they appear in semi desert environments where both cover and moisture are scarce. They still need access to moisture. That same review flagged a gap. The role of the spurred tortoise as a seed disperser remains poorly studied. Um,
Well, I would think if they just did that, it would have been well studied.
yeah. Also, I mean, when they defecate or they leave their waste, I would think that they're spreading seeds to an extent. Meaning scientists do not yet know the full scope of what the species moves or plants across its range. I would think, I mean, if you know what specific plants that they're feeding on, what time of year that they're eating them, um, that would give you a big indicator as to when they're planting the seeds. Unless they fully digest them, which I doubt. The 2021 also they don't have any teeth. They just swallow it whole. The 2021 release of 500 tortoises drew attention. Whoa, they released that many in 1 year. Wow. Those are some heavy guys, unless they're releasing them as youngsters, which is very possible. But IUCN records show that reintroduction work in Senegal began decades earlier. Okay, that makes sense. In one tracked group, tortoises posted an over 80% survival rate across 4 years of monitoring. Well, you guess if there's not really any poaching and there aren't really any carnivores to go after the tortoises, that would make sense. Also, if they're not having to deal with any diseases, they're not getting caught in fences, which can be quite common for African spurred tortoises in different areas. That number matters because landscape effects cannot accumulate if the animals do not stay alive long enough to dig, move, and maintain their burrow systems. Well, also just to survive in general. No one brought in tree planting equipment. There were no irrigation lines or chemical soil treatments. The intervention consisted entirely of releasing a native reptile into habitat from which human pressure had mostly erased it. Hunting, expanding agriculture, and livestock grazing had all taken a toll. Well, intensive livestock grazing. Okay, so distribution of Central Kelly, Sulcata, in Sub-Saharan Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. I wonder if I was confusing him with another species. And this is a separate one of the Centrochelis genus that specifically exists in this region. So yeah, it's basically from northern Senegal all the way to Eritrea. It's just north of Somalia and Ethiopia, over on the northeastern edge of, you say the eastern edge of, the Sahara Desert. And then, yeah, a sliver that I forget about over in, Yemen or Omar. I always wonder how specifically they got over here. They probably just took a bit of a land path and
It
then
looks
just
like there is one.
made it over. Yeah. And then these are funny. There's been some localities over here. They just decided to, take a homeward bound journey, but instead it's reptiles instead of dogs. Okay, let's, is there anything else? So, what followed was gradual vegetation recovery on ground that had previously shown bare sand. What returned was not forced in the everyday sense, it was visible biodiversity, with birds and small vertebrates arriving once plant cover began to spread. The sequence, as the source material traces it, ran from digging to soil change to water to growth. Hold on a second. Seems like this article is a bit dragging. However, um, I'm guessing that's the wet season. This is the dry season. Southern Malai. Yeah, Southern Malai is more of like a distinct sort of mixed woodland savanna sort of an ecosystem. Not exactly the savanna that you see in different parts of like South Africa, Kenya. Um yeah, I mean for the wet season, the upper A and B they look good. Even for the dry season, C and D, it's not bad. Okay, let's see. Was there anything else? It is funny. Repeated droughts. It's like it's a desert. Um, there we go. I'm glad they're reproducing. Um, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's head back in time to another part of the world. I'm glad those tortoises are rejuvenating the landscape. From Sci News, big nosed herbivorous dinosaur may have been picky eater.
Your face.
New research shows that the large bodied ornithopod dinosaur Muttaburrasaurus langdoni from the mid Cretaceous of Australia was no ordinary herbivore. With a toothed. Okay, so this is good to hear. We're talking about Muttaburrasaurus, one of the most, probably the most famous species of Australian dinosaur. With a toothed beak and a brain wired for smell, this species likely combines selective feeding with agile behavior. This is very enthusiastic description for Muttaburrasaurus. Oh no. The findings also hint at life near a vast inland sea where it may have consumed salty plants and possibly even small animals to survive. Well, this is new. Interesting. But this is not a typical Muttaburrasaurus structure. I did hear recently that there were certain changes that have occurred with the look of Muttaburrasaurus now. Hmm. Well, let's see what
Looks like a
occurred.
bird.
Yeah, it does, but it's actually very distantly. Actually, let's look up Muttaburrasaurus. It's very distantly related to birds. It's actually a bit more closely related to the crocodilomorphs. Um. Okay, so Muttaburrasaurus, Muttaab. Oh, so it's still a long
That's the
ways.
first picture that came up.
That's interesting.
Oh, wait. Your favorite.
Oh no. Yeah, this one. Gosh, what does he remind me of? It's a certain later species of iguanodontid. It's not hitting me at the moment. Could be the Gryposaurus. It might be. No, it's not the Gryposaurus. It's another species. I believe it was found in New Mexico recently, but it's not hitting me.
Why do these guys look so happy?
Yeah, I think it's from Prehistoric Kingdom. So, Montebarosaurus is a member of the ornithopod lineage of dinosaurs, or Ornithopoda. And specifically, it is from a derived group of iguanodontians called the Elasmarians. And it existed over in Australia around 110 million years ago during the late early Cretaceous. And this animal was practically the largest species of Ornithopoda that existed over in Australia. It was somewhere around 20 to 23 feet in length, or pushing 6 to 7 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around a ton, or pushing 2,000 pounds, or a little over 950 kilograms. Um, the animals beneath it are likely a species. I think there's a couple of small different species of elasmarians, other elasmarians that come from Australia, but the most recognizable is likely the Lianosaura, which in different reconstructions have been placed with plumage or feathers, despite this animal being a member of the ornithopod family. So far, there haven't been any species of ornithopods that have been preserved with feathers, but it is possible that they contain them. Well, this is an interesting model. It's almost got like a dragon sort of appearance to it. It's not bad for a Metabarosaurus, though the arms are far too stocky and far too muscular.
He's
They
incredibly scaly.
Yeah, they should also have a bit more of like a hoof-like structure when it comes to the front feet, like practically all the different species of iguanodontids, even the camptosaurs back in the Jurassic. But um, when it comes to Metabarosaurus, it had very small. I mean, not necessarily too tiny, but they were thin enough when it came to the forearms where it could not support much of its weight on them. So it wasn't quadrupedal, even though former reconstructions of Metabarosaurus, especially back in the 1990s, like the 1999 series Walking with Dinosaurs, show it walking on all fours occasionally. But it did not have this ability. Um, I don't mind that model. There's also oh, yeah, the carnivore,
They just look
distance.
so happy.
Yeah, these the arms on this specific model actually look a lot better. So, yeah, even when it comes to the legs somewhat, maybe the thighs are a bit off. There is some weird sort of display going on. Now, it is interesting. The osteoderms along its back and the tail is very possible that Muttaburrasaurus did have these specific types of characteristics. Also, there were different species of predators that existed back in Australia, and Muttaburrasaurus had to be careful with, especially different species of megaraptors such as the Australovenator. Now, Muttaburrasaurus langdoni lived around 96 million years ago near the ancient inland Oromanga Sea in what is now Australia. Technically, it lived a bit earlier to the early Cretaceous, at least around 108 million years ago. That's, um, unless I'm mistaking it for another species, that is far after the animal went extinct. The holotype specimen was discovered in 1963 near the central western Queensland town of Muttaburra by local grazier Doug Langdon. It is among the most skeletally complete ornithopod dinosaurs from the supercontinent Gondwana and is the fossil emblem of the state of Queensland. In new research, University of New England paleontologist Matthew Hernay and his colleagues examined different parts of the Muttaburrasaurus langdoni's skull from a new specimen. Our discovery redefined several assumptions made about the bumpy nosed species, which is a fossil emblem of Queensland. The first astonishing discovery was that Muttaburrasaurus langdoni had teeth at the tip of its snout. Whoa, that is interesting. That is not something that you see in a wide variety of different species of ornithopods. I mean, it tends to be their teeth tend to stop much further back in the mouth, not too far back, but not necessarily the tip of the snout. Also, let's look up a or the Australovenator. Oh, so AUSTR. Oh, so this is a member of the Coelurosaur lineage of theropod dinosaurs, and more specifically, the Megaraptorans. So, yeah, this AI picture, it's still a bit off. I'd say the arms aren't terrible. Maybe they could have a little more muscle, or maybe just slightly longer compared to their body size. Or it's possibly that the legs are a bit long as well. But it also seems that the Megaraptors in general were not really piscivores or feeding on fish. Well, this is an interesting model. Um, it's a bit odd, but Australian still reached a length of somewhere around 17 to 20 feet in length, or pushing around 5 to 6 meters. And it probably weighed somewhere around 16 to 1800 pounds, or pushing somewhere around 700 to 800 kilograms. So a slightly smaller than the Matabarosaurus. Matabarosaurus is probably a regular food item for the Australvenator. These are a bit more closely related to the dromaeosaurs or the raptors. However, so far it doesn't really look like there's any evidence for species of dromaeosaurs existing in Australia. So let's see. I'm guessing this is a model. I don't think it's AI. Whoa, okay. This definitely has a much more accurate sort of a Megaraptorid look. It's I guess the other one was a bit more of like certain species of dromaeosaurs, maybe even spinosaurs to an extent. But this is especially when it comes to the arms and how there's that distinct enlargement in the claws. As you can see, like the thumb claw is slightly wider in diameter compared to the index finger and especially the middle finger, technically, or the third finger. Okay, interesting. Oh, gosh, what was this? I don't think I remember exactly from the documentary, but there was a an Australian documentary from I think the early 2010s that had like Australvenator and the Australotitan. There might have been the Rolumus, maybe it's Australotitan. Basically, a 54-foot long species or 16-meter long species of sauropod that existed back in Australia around 108 million years ago. But, Australiminator likely didn't go after full-grown individuals. That would have been very risky. It certainly is possible, but, a full-grown Australotitan would have likely just simply crushed these animals. So, it is possible they might have hunted younger individuals, but the Australotitan was a member of the Titanosaur lineage of sauropods, so probably weighing in at somewhere around 15 to 20 tons. So large for Australia, medium sized for the rest of the world. This is a really good picture of a Megaraptor, especially the Australovenator. Megaraptors also in general, due to how closely related they are to the Dromaeosaurs, have been reconstructed. Pretty much all of them are shown with feathers. You mean because of his fluff and he almost looks positive or kind of cheerful?
I was going after the patterns.
Um, yeah, I guess you could say, or almost like a fox to an extent, but yeah, Corey could work too. He would just need very large ears. Yeah, it's definitely very far off from a Megaraptor. Okay, so this was unexpected because the beak front part of the snout of Metaperosaurus langdoni was thought to be toothless, like many other well-known plant-eating species, such as iguanodon from Europe and the duck-billed hadrosaurs, mostly found in the northern hemisphere. The hadrosaurs had not evolved by this point, and iguanodon had already gone extinct. So it is good to refer to these animals when um, comparing themselves to Metabarosaurus, even though Metabarosaurus lived in between these two lineages. Now, what is interesting is that during the time of Metabarosaurus, you had it where there was Australovenator, the carnivore, over in like the same region, as well as the medium-sized species of sauropods. And then in North America, it was like the complete opposite. You had it where the largest species of supposedly carnivore to exist on land was roaming different parts of Texas, Utah, and North Carolina, Kansas at around 110 million years ago, and also hunting some of the largest species of sauropods to exist. So it's very interesting what's going on here throughout the world at this part of the Mesozoic at this point in Cretaceous. But ornithischian dinosaurs of this size normally have beak-like snouts without teeth. Yeah, it's very true.
Wait,
When you-
you said Mesozoic and then you said Cretaceous.
yeah, specifically like at this point in the Cretaceous, there is it's I guess one of the most differentiated continents, I guess predator herbivore um, dynamics compared to different parts of the period. What was it? Oh yeah, so with a good example of this being Triceratops. Well, I wasn't going to Triceratops wasn't even hitting my mind, but more of specifically just other species of ornithopods in general. Well, technically Triceratops is a Margocephalian or a member of the Ornithischian lineage, very closely related to the ornithopods. But the ceratopsians in general, I mean, let's just look up a specific species. Maybe pull in Styracosaurus. So Styrac. Oh, so this is a species of Chasmosaur, so it belongs to the same family of ceratopsians as Triceratops, and it has a much different morphology, but in some cases, a much more similar beak structure to Triceratops compared to any species of ornithopod. Is this Styracosaurus? Yeah, I think it's Styracosaurus. So, yeah, as you can see, the specific beak structure is very different from what you see in different species of ornithopods. I might want to bring up something like a Parasaurolophus to compare it, but They're very thin and well, I wouldn't necessarily call them thin, but in terms of just the wide diameter that you see in different species of hadrosaurs and iguanodontids. Oh yeah, I really like this model. It could have a little more in its core, but besides that, I think it looks good. Yeah, ceratopsians in general, like it's a very robust beak structure, but it's very short in terms of width. And it's the complete opposite of the ornithopods. Yeah, I think these look good too. Styracosaurus was a species of chasmosaur that lived in Alberta, Canada, as well as Montana around 76 million years ago during the Campanian stage of the Cretaceous. It also coexisted with a wide range of different species of Centrosaur and Chasmosaur ceratopsians at the time as well, such as Lokiceratops, Pentaceratops, Pachyrhinosaurus, and even different species of hadrosaurs such as Parasaurolophus and Lambeosaurus. And it did coexist with different species of raptors or dromaeosaurs, such as Dromaeosaurus itself. Even the troodontids existed in the region. Styracosaurus is also known. It's probably the most famous species of ceratopsian when it comes to having that specific snout horn, which can reach somewhere around 4 feet in length, or probably pushing around 1.3 meters. Um, let's see. Oh, probably pushing around 18 to 20 feet in length, around 5 to 6 meters, and weighing 1.5 to 2 tons. So a very formidable adversary to not just the different species of predators in the region, like the tyrannosaurs, but even to other species of ceratopsians. And even the hadrosaurs had to be careful as to not come into contact with one of these very stubborn species of herbivores. Not that the hadrosaurs weren't themselves. I mean, they likely would probably try to stomp on different smaller species of carnivores and even the youngsters of the larger species as well. Considering, in many cases, probably less so as ceratopsians, but hadrosaurs, iguanodontids in general, tend to um, be reconstructed as being like the friendly and docile herbivores. But in many cases, herbivores can be much more aggressive than the carnivores and will actively go and search and try to stomp out the any carnivores in the region. So let's see. Therefore, the beak of this Australian dinosaur wasn't toothless and most likely a pickier eater. Well, I wonder if it was picky or it just had a large variety in its diet. But um,
Okay, that's something I have to say is how do they know it would be picky?
yeah, that's a bit of a hard one. That unless you have like a lot of um, evidence in its teeth, as well as maybe taking isotope analysis, certain preserved digested plant material inside of the rib cage region or just the stomach, any preserved stomach contents. And it's possible to have that sort of assumption, but even then, it would have to be alive and feeding. So, with its narrow, toothy beak, Montebarosaurus langdoni would have browsed for particular leaves and seeds, and possibly even invertebrates for variety in their diet. Um, Invertebrates, like it's munching on squid, because it lives along the coast. That's an interesting one. Because invertebrates are creatures without a backbone.
They go out for calamari here and there.
Yeah, I guess so. That is strange. I'm trying to think of something today that tends to be more herbivorous or belongs to a heavily herbivorous family that goes out and feeds on. Well, I mean, you have it where camels, horses, deer are known for eating baby birds. So maybe
They're
what they're
not
doing is they're going,
invertebrates.
huh?
They're not invertebrates.
Oh, right. Hmm. Eating.
Camels walk around by the seashore, don't they?
Yeah, but I haven't heard of any feeding on like things like squid, but it certainly is possible. That is odd. I could definitely see the seeds. It's very very plausible for a wide variety of different species of dinosaurs. I don't know. This also means that Muttaburrasaurus langdoni evolved from an earlier offshoot to the ornithopod dinosaurs from Camptosaurus and Iguanodon. Yeah, yeah, it's that's been agreed upon for a long time. when the earlier forms of the small bodied ornithischians all had toothed beaks. This new finding can help place Metabarosaurus langdoni more accurately on the dinosaur tree of life. The findings were made by extracting the brain imprint on the skull and the inner ear, said Flinders University's professor Vera Weisbecker. Weiss. Uh, we realized that its inner ear was more like dinosaurs that walked on two legs, like Tyrannosaurus rex, than others that spent more time on all fours. No, I'm thinking of different sized eye sockets. That's interesting. Weird. Why would it be more similar to different species of theropods? It's not even closely related than other ornithopods in general. This is strange. So it's possible that Metabarosaurus langdoni was a large herbivore walking and running on its hind legs when needed and used its front arms to or for support to crop food closer to the ground. I think it's what it's saying is to help bring branches closer to its mouth. The problem is that I don't think Metabarosaurus's arms were long enough to really create much of a difference or help in that instance. So the researchers, maybe to help pushing like a certain tree down.
No, it's not saying down, it's saying pulling food up.
Uh, oh, like it grabbed a squid and brought it to its mouth. That's a bit
Crop
odd.
food closer to the ground.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. The researchers also found that the characteristics, uh, bulbous shape of Metabarosaurus langdoni's nose is comprised of entirely new bones that are not found in other dinosaurs. Finding the new bones was exciting because they revealed two large, complex air chambers above the main inhaled airflow, which would have slowed down air as it breathed in. So we suspect that they indicate a very acute sense of smell, perhaps to help the animal find food, detect predators, or assist in directional navigation. This feature of the nose also matches their very large olfactory bulbs. Yeah, I've always wondered about that when it came to hadrosaurs or iguanodontids like Metabarosaurus. Did they have very acute sense of smell? That tends to be the case with many species of herbivores, especially considering many tend to have um, a worse sense of vision, not so much hearing, but it would depend on the frequency. Among the largest of any dinosaur, whoa, which are the parts of the brain where smell is processed. That's really whoa. The use of advanced CT scanning, neutron scattering, and cyclotron technologies provided detailed 3D digital models of the jaws and teeth, added Dr. Joseph Bivet, a researcher at the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organization. Metabarosaurus just got extremely weird. Having the largest olfactory bulbs compared to T Rex? We need to check up on this Australian. It really wanted to be its own thing. Interesting. And what is odd is that it has still relatively small nasal structures compared to its body size in many reconstructions. Yeah, I'll definitely look more into this. Okay, let's head forward in time on the final article from au.news.yahoo.com. $1.4 million plan after rediscovery of Aussie animal thought extinct. Alrighty, this sounds interesting. After the rare marsupial was rediscovered in the 1970s, the battle to protect it had only just begun. Well, what do we have here? Around 100 elusive, bridled nail-tail wallabies live on the Advocate Nature Refuge. For close to 40 years, Australians had mistakenly believed one of their cutest wallaby species was likely extinct. The error was understandable. The bridled nail-tail wallabies that were once common across the country's east had vanished.
Probably getting drowned by the red kangaroos.
Yeah, eastern gray kangaroos probably do in this specific range. But, yeah, if any I guess if they're further west in Queensland, then yeah, the red kangaroos probably having a bit of a, um, genocide on the wallabies. That's horrible to think about. Its habitats had been destroyed, and feral cats and foxes ravaged the survivors, while other species like the tool-ache wallaby and Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine, had already been wiped out. Oh, I didn't realize. I forgot about that wallaby. Then in 1973, a remnant population was discovered at Taunton National Park inland from the Queensland town of Rockhampton. Wait a second. Did I mistake that for another species? No, I don't think so. So, but rediscovering the species was only the beginning of the response. For the last 50 years, the goal had been building up numbers of the endangered species so it's not lost again. This week, Bush Heritage Australia announced it had bought a mammoth 1,207-hectare patch of rare habitat to support its future, or somewhere around 2,400 acres. The nonprofit's ecologist, Dr. Stephen Kearney, describes the landscape as harsh but perfect for bridle tail, nail tail wallabies. Yeah, wallabies, for the most part, they're feeding on different species of shrubs in the region. So they're not really grazers. That tends to be more of a kangaroo thing. They have a completely different dental structure from the kangaroos. You could say somewhat more similar to tree kangaroos compared to ground dwelling kangaroos. The ground is still speckled with sclerolina, a native shrub that humans despise because its spikes get caught in socks and scratch skin. Sounds like a different version of a cactus. But wallabies love because its succulent leaves are full of water. Tends to be the case with many species of plants in very dry and arid regions. Having intact habitat out here is pretty special. So, visionary farmer protected lands being bulldozed by others. The newly acquired Advocate Nature Refuge and Taunton National Park are within the sprawling Brigalow Belt. Yeah, so Taunton National Park is over in eastern Queensland, so literally close to the coast. There's around five different other species of wallaby that exist in the region outside of this rare species, especially the wallaroo. The region's woodlands, which once extended through Queensland and New South Wales, have been so laboriously decimated for cattle farming, probably too intensive of grazing, and only 5% remain. And worryingly, just 2% of this habitat is protected. Um,
Wait, was that the habitat? Yeah. Well, that would explain the problem.
oh, I I don't know what to say. After the bridled nail-tail wallabies were rediscovered, small populations were translocated to two other sites to establish new colonies. One of them was Advocate Nature Refuge, where a forward-thinking farmer had protected parcels of his property for nature, and today it's home not only to the wallabies but also koalas. I mean, the koalas, pretty much their natural range extends from northeastern Queensland down to southeastern Victoria.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have affected the koalas because the koalas go shopping.
Yeah, it's true. They go into town. He was quite a visionary, but also unusual for cattle graziers. In that he saw the value in putting a covenant on part of his property to give it extra protection in 1999. Today, there are believed to be roughly 100 on the property and 1,500 in the wild. Oh, well, that's a relief. Oh, I forgot that was the 1970s. So they have increased in population. I kept thinking it was just 100. Like, that's not good. This is like Javin Rhino bad. Now that Bush Heritage Australia has acquired Advocate Nature Refuge, the costs of maintaining it into the future are piling up. Over $1 million has been raised, but it has the goal of getting to 1.4 million to protect the property and others like it into the future. And here's another picture of them. I think it's them. So the species is largely solitary, can grow up to 1 meter in length or 3.3 feet, and is known for the thick black stripe that runs across its body and the nail at the end of the tail.
Hold on, let me blow it up.
Yeah, it's them. They're just feeding and discussing wallaby politics. It's like, hmm, what do you think we should do about the dingoes around here? Uh, Nothing. Okay, so let's see. Originally, they had few predators, with eagles likely posing the greatest danger. Like many native animals, including the bush stone curlew, there was no need to develop complex protection strategies. There is the concept of flight, fight, or freeze, and they are usually a freezer when they think they're under attack.
Well, that's not good.
And they turn to a reptile. That was probably because predators from the sky wouldn't see them, and it was probably a good evolutionary mechanism. Today, the 4 to 8 kilogram wallabies, okay, so these guys get to around 17 to 18 pounds, are no match for the cats and foxes that have invaded Australia, which see them as an easy meal. What's keeping the species alive on the property in Bush Heritage Australia is adjoining 594 hectare or around 1100 acres Goondaroo Reserve is ongoing invasive predator and fire management and habitat restoration. Yeah, there are prescribed fires that occur in the different protected areas to help rejuvenate the landscape.
So basically, it's not people killing these things off.
Yeah, it's the foxes, cats,
It's things
over
that shouldn't
intense
have been
fire.
there to start with.
Yeah, rats, mice,
What?
as
Mice are
well,
killing them off?
could be by disease wise, or let's say Joey falls out and he's too small. But yeah, usually it's the foxes and who else? Cats that are a big issue. Feral dogs too. As technology rapidly advances, it's hoped the species can be protected in this stronghold well into the future.
Why are they going to give them cell phones?
Uh, yeah, are you?
Starlink, come save us.
Um. Anyway, this was good to hear about these different wallabies in the region. I'd like to know more about what's going on with the other species in the region, even maybe what's going on with the koalas, possibly even the dingoes. So, thanks for joining. And for Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Happy International Belly Sword Day. And remember that nothing's